Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I have another marker review for you. This time it is the much anticipated Ohuhu Pastel brush marker review. This is a set of 48 markers, and every time I have reviewed the Ohuhu markers or have seen others review the Ohuhu markers in both the chisel bullet tip version or the brush version, the one thing I hear over and over again is I wish there was more pastel colors. Well, now there are pastel colors. So these were sent to me a couple weeks ago from Ohuhu, and they are going on sale just as I post this video, so it'll be like midnight on December 18th, 2020. And I thought I would just get this out there. That way, if you were looking to buy them, you wouldn't have to wait for my review if that's what you were kind of hoping to see. And then you could get them before they sold out if, you know, that happens. That usually happens with these markers. So I thought I'd be kind of right on the edge if possible. So it comes with actually 2 swatch sheets, which I cut up and made a little swatch ring from, so I can hang it from the outside, and then I'll be able to tell that that's what's in here. And you do get a really nice arrangement of pastel shades. These are exactly the same bodies as the other Ohuhu brush markers. You've got a chisel on one end, and you've got, of course I picked one that's very close to skin tone color. Let me pick something else that's a dew green. You get a brush tip on one end, and you have a chisel tip on the other end, same as the other brush markers. You get a page protector thing here that you can put between your sheets when you're coloring. Of course, it's a little bit smaller than like a 8.5 by 11. It's probably about half that, so you might need to move it if you're doing a larger illustration. It's a nice soft kind of like vinyl material, and you also get a little brochure, and it talks about the different lines of Ohuhu markers. They've now released a line called Lanai that has a, oh no, that's the water-based ones. It's got one called the Honolulu that's got a fine point and a brush point, which I think would be really handy for stampers. I've only seen that on Amazon in a 48 selection assortment, so hopefully they're going to come up with all of the different assortments and all the different brush types. But that's the first I've seen of that marker being marketed, so I think that's kind of nice that they put that in there, and they are kind of doubling down on their markers. So let's look at the whole range. Now this is on marker paper, which does look lighter than how it looks on a porous paper such as the swatch cards. The swatch cards they sent almost feel like a hot press watercolor paper, but I don't think it's watercolor paper. It's more similar to their Ohuhu Sketchbook, which I'll show you in a minute. So it is a little bit more porous, so the colors show up a little bit darker on the swatch card that Ohuhu puts in their bag than on marker paper. So all this to say is when you get new markers, swatch them on the paper you typically use so you can anticipate the correct results. And then as far as colors go, I found that the swatches on the marker paper matched very accurately the swatches on the color chip, which, let's see, this is B050, see, very, very close matches, but I found the swatches on the paper here to be a little bit darker, but still pretty good. They did a much better job with their color ends than they have done on previous marker versions. Ohuhu's are decent, but they did a really good job with the pastel ones here, I thought. Even with the really light ones, let's see, this is sand, this is E280, where's that one? Right there, see, very close. Oh, it's almost a perfect match on marker paper for one layer. You can layer it up and get richer tones as well, so keep that in mind. You're not just stuck with really, really pale shades, but the pale shades are what have been very requested. So let me grab, what do I want to show you first? I think I'm going to show you the in the Ohuhu marker sketchbook. So here's what I'm talking about. Their sketch paper is a little more porous. It's made for blending, not so much for layering, so the colors do saturate a little bit more, but I got really nice blends. The only color that gave me any problems when I was blending was the RV180, and that is this guy right here. For whatever reason, I blend it out and it looked great, and then when it dried, I was getting streaks with the RV180. On this version here, I primed it with my lighter pink and then did the other colors and blended back, and still I got streaks with the RV180. I did go in and do another, use it in a blending right here, and man, I still getting some hard edges where it looked perfectly blended when it was wet. So I'm not exactly sure, but that's the only color, maybe because it is a couple steps darker than anything else. This color this color did give me some issues. And you can see there's also a shift, because this is it wet, and when it's dry, it's much more purpley. So this color, I just want you to be aware of. RV180, practice with it before you commit to your drawing with it, because it shifts a little bit. It's an oddball. I'm not sure why. I have seen that with pinks and purples that don't dry exactly the same as when they go down wet, but this was the only color in that in this this set that did not act as expected. The other colors blended beautifully. I just think there's some really gorgeous colors here. This right here is the Ohuhu blend of Robin's Egg Blue into Frost Blue, and then I happen to have Copic markers in Robin's Egg Blue and Frost Blue, and I did that same blend there just to see how close the colors were. Very close. I think I actually got a better blend with Ohuhu, but it could be because these markers are brand new and fresh, and I think I have re-inked my my Copic versions of those, but anyway, the color Lipstick Natural is pretty much identical to the Copic Lipstick Natural. The light pink is pretty close to Copic's light pink, but the Ohuhu one is a little bit more vivid. Pale Cherry Pink is, I have that in Touch New and also Ohuhu, and they're very similar, and Sand and Ohuhu and Copic are very similar. I just thought it was interesting. Now, something that I thought was nice about these markers is you can blend to white. So these are all different examples where I just took the color and blended it out with a clear blender, blended it to white. So you put a patch of color with a clear blender. I'll show you here. I can show you on a spot here. So you take your clear blender and you color it, just color your shape. So it was a flower petal or whatever, you color that flower petal. Then you take your color, whatever it is, and then you just start kind of flicking up into the wet blender area, and then you just go in with your clear blender again and hit the edge. And you can get a pretty nice blend out to white that way. So it's really handy for flower petals, or if you're coloring like animals and you want, like you're doing maybe a bunny or something, some animal that's really light, and you want it blending out to a nice white. That will work because your colors are pale enough that it's not too big of a jump between the clear blender and the amount of alcohol that's in the pen. And let me show you that. This color here, this blue flower, I blended out to white, and I blended out to white in the petals. And also on this image, I blended out to white in the wings, and I blended out to white on that petal, and I blended out to white in the shoulder there. So that worked really well. And then on this stamped image, I blended out to white on the marshmallows. That one I got a little too heavy-handed, but on those two I did a pretty good successful blend out to white. So I think it's a nice technique. It's not really that possible with really bright colors, but when you got a brush tip and you got a really light marker, it works really well. And I know these look very saturated. I layered up quite a bit while I was working with this, so you can layer up and get more color out of your pastels. But I think if you're trying to decide what to get for your first marker, I don't think I would go with the pastel set. This pastel set, I would go with like an assortment first, and then I would probably add the pastels on, because you will want some more contrast. Like when I was doing the leaves here, I was like, oh, I wish I had some darker greens, but I wanted to stick to the set just to see what, you know, what was what and what we could do with that. So there was that. So then I was thinking, I wonder how many similar colors were in the 120 brush marker set from Ohuhu, which I actually have right here. This is a really nice nice set. If you can begin with one, I'd probably suggest this one if you want a brush tip marker. If you can swing it, I think that would be more useful than the pastel set, but the pastel set would be a nice addition to this if you have it. But I was going and comparing because, you know, I just want to make sure you're not getting a bunch of stuff that's really similar to what you already have if you already have the 120 set. So like the E470, this is the pastel set, this is the original. That's pastel, that's the original 120. So the E70 is very similar to the R20. The R111, I'm sorry, the R110 is very similar to the R21. Not exact matches, but pretty darn close. E90 is a little bit darker than R18. Those would be nice to blend together. E220 is a little bit warmer than Y11, but they're fairly close. P3 and V030 were fairly similar. Those two are quite different. G172 and G120, they're fairly, you could blend them together. Let's see, those blended, actually I blended those two together and that blended really well. So I was just seeing how many similar tones there were. Some tones were quite similar, but overall I would say there was probably only, let's see, I would say 1, 2, those are pretty close. Maybe 3 exact matches. The other ones were just really similar. So I think that would be a good kind of set to blend out your other marker sets with. So I did compare them pretty closely, compared all the new colors, and I think only having 3 that are really, really close is good. Now, because they're lighter markers, the lighter colors, if you've ever used alcohol markers before, you'll know that the lighter colors do dry quicker. It's because it has a higher alcohol content, and I think that's what keeps a lot of marker brands from putting really pastel colors in their sets, because they don't want to deal with unhappy customers that have their markers drying out too quickly on them. And so I think that's why. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're working. I haven't had an issue of any of these feeling dry yet, but I think that you know, that could happen a little faster with a pastel marker versus a regular marker. Now, these are not foam rubber tips like Copic markers. These are fiber tips. They have a little bit of a bounce to them. They're not as springy as like a Copic or a Biennial or a Blick Studio marker or an Art and Fly or a new Spectrum Noir Illustrator, but they're also not frayy and fragile like the old Studio 71, the old Blick illustrators, the old Spectrum Noir illustrators. And I did go and check my oldest set, which is about a year and a half old, and there's no desalination, no fraying or wearing or weird funk on the tips. So so that's good. It seems to be a nice mid-grade brush. I haven't had any of these fray, but if they do fray, you can pull the nib out and put it in backwards and have a fresh tip. So your nibs will last the lifetime of the marker. It will last until your ink is all used up. I do not know what sort of numbering system they go on, other than like they've got it broken up by like E for earth tones, kind of like Copic's, yellow greens, YG for yellow greens, RG for, actually YG, I think that's yellow gray, RG for red gray, RV for red violet, V for violet, B for blue, yada yada. But I don't think that, but the numbers don't seem to make much sense to me. So like the Copic system has you have a first number for I think saturation, the second one for lightness or darkness. I'm not sure what sort of system they use here, so I just kind of eyeball it. Now this is what the 120 brush markers look like, their color range. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can put these swatches side by side. Of course, this is marker paper, and this is the Ohuhu sketchbook, but this is what the original 120 swatch looks like. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more. Goodness, can't get a medium ground here. And this is what the new pastels look like on marker paper, but this paper is more like their sketchbook. So I'll just lay those down just so you can kind of see a comparison. They are a good step lighter than any of the markers in here, and I just wanted to put that there for comparison in case you were curious how they stacked up compared to the regular set that have more saturated colors. I mean, the regular sets do have some nice pastels in there, so I don't want to say that they don't, because they do. Now I also want to show you the 200 classic Ohuhus, and these are the if you were to get like the bullet chisel tip markers, this is the range of colors in there. And there are some beautiful pastels and skin tones and whatnot. And let's just grab these swatches here. And we can just move them piece by piece around. Like, there are some very comparable colors here. So I think the 200 set has a really great selection of really pale colors, but that's the bullet and chisel tip. So if you don't want the bullet tip, if you want the brush tip, that's really not going to do you any good. However, if you already have the 200 set of classic Ohuhus, you're going to have a very comparable color scheme. And, you know, I understand, you know, sometimes it's nice to have a bullet and a brush and a chisel. And there are definitely some colors that seem to be unique, like that kind of sea foamy color. But yeah, I just want to really compare so you can decide what's best for you. Another thing about a bullet tip and a chisel tip combination, you would use the chisel tip a lot more in that combination. Anytime you'd use a brush tip, you'd probably be going for the chisel tip until you needed to get details and you go in with a bullet tip. There's pros and cons to everything. The pros to a bullet tip is that it doesn't change shape really. It's going to stay like a hard, fine tip for the most part, and then and it's much more durable than a fiber brush tip. So if that's an issue, of course, where you can flip the fiber brush tips around here, I think they're going to last just fine. I haven't had to flip any of mine around, and I've been using those markers for a year and a half. So it's just something to consider, just like anything. I mean, these markers are a lot less expensive than Copic or other markers that have the foam rubber Japanese tips, but you know, they could wear down quicker. So I just want to put that out there. Overall though, I'm really liking using them. Oh, I'll also show you the skin tone set. Now this, I think they've come out with another skin tone set since this one first came out. This is the brush skin tone set. And the thing that I didn't like about this set was it's very orangey and there's not very many cool undertone colors here. And then the colors that I circled were also in their other, like their 120 set. It might even been the 72 set at that point, because I'm trying to think in what order these came out. So there was also some duplications with the other sets that they had. But I think if you took you took these pastels and used them with a skin tone set, you would have a much greater variety of the types of skin tones you can get, because then you can use the lavenders and the pinks and the greens as undertones and get like the perfect skin tone when you combine those two. I don't know what the price of the pastel markers is going to be yet. I would assume it would be 48 colors. I would assume it'd be under $50, because generally they're around $1 a marker for these Ohuhus, sometimes less. But that's just my assumption. I have no idea, because they haven't officially been listed for sale yet. But I'm very pleased with the looks that I got with just the pastel set. I thought the colors had a nice richness to them when layered. They blended really well. The colors were nice and pale, and you could blend to white. The only thing you want to watch out for, and I was just finishing up this, coloring this flower here, and the markers are so juicy that when you uncap, you might get a little spatter, and I got a little pink spatter there from uncapping the marker. So don't uncap over your work, at least until you've used the markers a while and they've kind of dried up a little bit. But overall, I'm very happy with them. I have other reviews on the Ohuhu dual brush markers in case you want to check those out and compare the sets a little bit more before you decide to invest. If you already have some decent if you already have like an assortment of markers, I would not hesitate to get these. In fact, I'm thinking about adding these to my everyday marker rack that I have behind me with all my open stock markers. I usually keep sets together, but I'm just thinking, man, these would really make all my other markers more useful. And when I'm looking to add to the stash, I look for things that make other things more useful. So with that, maybe these are for you, maybe they're not. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And I will have a tutorial coming up with this little guy on it. If you're curious on how I colored that, stay tuned for that. It'll be up shortly on my YouTube channel and on the Ohuhu website. I want to thank Ohuhu for sending me these markers. I do appreciate it. I appreciate getting a sneak peek at these products, so I can kind of dig into them a little bit and see what they're all about before they go for sale. That way, you know, I can either help save you some money or help you spend your money, I guess. I don't know. Oh, maybe I'm a bad influence. Anyway, there we have it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments and I will help you out. Please give me a thumbs up before you go if you enjoy marker reviews. Until next time, happy crafting.